So we're reading Sri Caitanya Caritamrita Adi-lila chapter 9, text 43. Lord Caitanya is continuing on with his quotation from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's from yesterday. So we have Praninam Upakarya Jad Evaha Paratra Cha Karmana Manasa Vacha Tad Eva Matiman Vajet Praninam Upakarya Yadeva Paratra Cha Karmana Manasa Vacha Tadeva Matimam Bhajet Praninam Upakarya Yadeva Paratra Cha Karmana Manasa Vacha Tadeva Matimam Bhajet Praninam, of all living entities, Upakarya, for the benefit, Yat, whichever, Eva, certainly, Iha, in this world or in this life, Paratra, in the next life, Cha, and Karmana, by work, Manasa, by the mind, Vacha, by words, Tat, that, Eva, certainly, Matiman, an intelligent man, Vajet, must act. By his work, thoughts and words, an intelligent man must perform actions which will be beneficial for all living entities in this life and in the next. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unfortunately, people in general do not know what is to take place in the next life. To prepare oneself for his next life is common sense, and it is a principle of the Vedic civilization. But presently, people throughout the world do not believe in the next life. Even influential professors and other educators say that as soon as the body is finished, everything is finished. This atheistic philosophy is killing human civilization. People are irresponsibly performing all sorts of sinful activities, and thus the privilege of the human life is being taken away by the educational propaganda of the so-called leaders. Actually, it is a fact that this life is meant for preparation for the next life. By evolution, one has come through many species of forms, and this human form of life is an opportunity to prep oneself to a better life. This is explained in Bhagavad-Gita. Yanti devavrata devan pritrin yanti pitrivrata Buddhani yanti bhuteya yanti mam yajino bimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth amongst the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth amongst such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me will live with me. Bhagavad-Gita 9:25. Therefore, one may promote himself to the higher planetary system, which are the residents of the demigods. One can promote himself to Pitraloka. One can remain on earth, or one can also go back home, back to Godhead. This is further confirmed Bhagavad-Gita. Chakvadeham purajanmanati mam iti sojuna. After giving up the body, one who knows Krishna in truth does not come back again to this world to accept a material body, but goes back home, back to Godhead. This knowledge is in the Shastras, and people should be given the opportunity to understand it. even if one is not able to go back to Godhead in one life. Vedic civilization at least gives one the opportunity to be promoted to higher planetary systems where demigods live and not glide down again to animal life. At present, people do not understand this knowledge, although it constitutes a great science, for they are uneducated and trained not to accept it. This is a horrible condition of modern human society. As such, the Krishna consciousness movement is the only hope to direct the attention of intelligent men to greater benefit in this human life. Durga me parimendasya skalatpate gatirmuhu shura kripa yustadana shanto shantalambanam mukam karoti vachalam vangam vangayate girim Yat kripatamaham mande shri gurum dinatarine Om Aginatimrandasya Jananjana Salakya Chakshuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurue Namaha. So this is a classic purport by Srila Prabhupada, and he begins by talking about destinations, where we plan on going. Rather a relevant topic at this point in time because we can't go anywhere. We're here. But normally there is so many plans being made that I want to go to India, Gamis want to go on a boat cruise, they want to go around the world in this body, just presently go where we'd like to go in this body. But they don't talk about the destination after this body. What happens at death? Where do we go after death? Oh, they don't want to know that. They don't want to even talk about it. Dying. They sort of sometimes put on a brave face about dying. I'm not scared of death. That's until they get sick and the threat of death is there. And as Srila Prabhupada once said, there are no atheists in the trenches. There's a saying there in the wall when they hear the bombs coming and they know death is imminent. So that puts a different perspective on people, because actually something wells up with them, which is their natural constitutional position as servant of Krishna. And all of a sudden that awakening happens at the time of death, because Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, death I am. I've come to devour you all. So religion is the purpose whereby we can understand more about ourselves at death. I know different religions. I was brought up in the Christian religion, so if you're a good Christian and you go to heaven, so that is a concept that we try to explore a little bit. So what happens in heaven? A little bit vague. Christianity said that when we die, then at some point in time we're all resurrected in the same body we lived in, and we go to heaven there, and all of our brothers and sisters are there, our family, our relatives, God is there, and we go in the same body we're in. I was a little bit confused there because we have different bodies, you know, like I was in the body of a young boy, so my parents are in old bodies. So does that mean if my parents go to heaven, they're going to be in old bodies, I'm going to be in young bodies? What about when they're young and their parents are old? How does it work? But the flaw was that people don't understand the difference between, Christianity didn't explain the difference between the body and the soul, so there was some sort of confusion about that. But still there was a heaven, better than here. And of course Srila Prabhupada talks about Vedic civilization, people who we classify as Hindus. Then they worship all other different demigods, but at least the Vedic civilization and the Shastras have helped them to understand that there is a higher state of being in the next life. So Srila Prabhupada quotes the Bhagavad-Gita, if you want to worship the demigods, you want to worship Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesh, Surya, then if you execute that worship properly, you go to the planets of the demigods. If you want to worship ghosts and spirits, We'll go easy on the ghosts here, because the yakshas are ghosts actually, and they're sort of regarded as a heavenly planet up there, somewhere in the stratosphere, not far away from our Earth planet. But then there's the ghosts and the spirits. You go to there. You want to worship the forefathers, you go there. Sounds a bit like the Christians worshipping the forefathers. It sounds very similar. Maybe that's the destination of the Christians. So anyway, and then if you want to worship me, you come to me, Krishna Bhakta. Unfortunately, we have Christians, Hindus, Islamics, but now whatever faith is there, atheism seems to become a prevalent, dominant philosophy. So that's been, atheism has come into mergers when religion gets swamped by economic development, just a penchant to a desire to develop material facilities so you can enjoy them through sense gratification. Unfortunately, because one partakes in this process, the economic development, all of that has come from the religious activities. From there you get economic development, sense gratification, but the prevalent overshadowing of these then it cuts our liberation. It means there's no liberation, there's no path to liberation. All the shastras are converted, so people are stuck here. So that is a bad way to be. It's like we've taken the wrong path. It's like Srila Prabhupada explains, so I was born in the darkness of ignorance. So in the beginning, the universe was a place of darkness. There was nothing here. And then Lord Brahma, he created the sun and the light and the moon. And so now we do have light, so due to the presence of the sun. Similarly, the people are in darkness, the knowledge of the darkness of ignorance, and Amagina Tirandasya Nyanja Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Right? Spiritual master is opening your eyes like with the torchlight of knowledge. So what is that knowledge? It is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Or just knowledge of God, because in every society you'll find throughout history, I mean, you know, the scientists and the atheists, they're trying to rewrite the history books. We're going to rewrite the history books, the thousands and millions of years of generation, all been wrong. Now we've just come to this, that we're the ones, we're the pivot, we're going to rewrite history. But in every society previously, all the institutions, they had some religion. And what does religion mean? It means serve the purpose of bringing people to the light. So what is the light? It's understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what is the function of these institutions and religions? It's actually to familiarise everyone with the codes that are written down by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharmam tu Shakshad Bhagavan Pranitam. That the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's laid down the rules. It's that person, no one else, that's actually laid down the rules of spiritual life, so we can actually achieve emancipation and liberation from the material world. And these rules are enunciated in the scriptures. So if there is no scripture, there is no path of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada compares that to animal life, because there is a common trait there: eating, sleeping, mating and defending. We all know that. So therefore that is very important to observe those laws. Just like we have the laws of the country. In every country there are certain laws, whether we agree with certain laws or not. There are basic laws like driving. So in some countries you drive on the right hand side of the road. You go to another country, it's the left hand side of the road. So you've got to be careful which country you're in. Australians a lot of time get caught up when they go to Europe and end up driving on the wrong side of the road and vice versa. So crossing the road, we have crossings where the lights go, we cross the road at a certain time for the traffic to give away. We follow those rules, we get run over. Wearing masks, that is the law, so we have to wear masks in certain places. So we're following the laws of the land. But the animals, they don't have to follow. The animals don't have to wear masks. They have to cross at the crossings. Some smart animals do, you see it sometimes. Or they're they avoid the road. They go on the left-hand side of the road. So animals, they have no idea for it. So in the same fashion, man can search after God, but the animals can't. So therefore, if man doesn't actually search after God, then it's an uncivilized society. Civilized society respects the codes not only of the government but the laws of God. So unfortunately, at this point in time, society, it's caught up in trying to just forge ahead in materialism, and they're accepting the words of the scientists. The scientists are the ones who have become the givers, the law givers of what you can do and what you can't do. So therefore, the religion is under attack. Public speakers are attacking God. Creation, they can't be taught in schools. Public schools can't teach creation. Darwinism, they can't be challenged in universities. If you do, you'll fail. So this education system is propounding atheism, and people are being brought up, just like I said the other day in a lecture, that a lot of kids that get brought up, their parents don't even tell them of the existence of God. Thereby the world is in a very, very precarious condition. Srila Prabhupada gives a story of the sage and the rat. I know we had it a couple of weeks ago, someone told that story, but it's very relevant that there is a sage in an ashram who can communicate with animals, and there's a rat in his hermitage, rat in his little bhajan kuti. And the rat's in great distress, so he says, "What's the problem?" He said, "There's a cat outside. I'm being chased by the cat." "So what do you want me to do about it?" "I want to become a cat." So the sage, by his mantras, turns the rat into a cat. So the cat's hanging around the ashram, and then it comes back all distressed. Cats wander about, and he confronted a jackal, and the jackal chased him and wanted to kill him. So he's all afraid. So he tells the sage his dilemma. So the sage says, "Okay, make you a jackal." Jackal. So the jackal's hanging around the ashram, and then comes back with his tail between his legs, ears pinned back. "What's the matter?" "I'm being chased by a tiger." "So, do you want to become a tiger?" "Yes, please." Tiger. Right, so then there's the tiger in the ashram, and the tiger starts looking at the sage with his eyes and licking his tongue. So the sage can read the tiger's mind. He said, "You want to eat me, don't you?" He said, "Yes, I would like to eat you." So therefore, if you want to eat me, who actually tried to put you out of all your problems, tried to solve your problems for you, and this is how you respond by wanting to eat me, then again become a rat. So then once again we have a rat scurrying across the hermitage, and the sage probably said, "Get out of my hermitage now." So anyway, this is the story of the rat. Is very much like the story of this civilization, this human civilization, this point in time, that we've become so advanced. We've got these tall buildings, we've got so many wonderful facilities, big halls, auditoriums, shopping malls, and then of course the richer people, they have their penthouses and people at the top of their game. But simultaneously, science not only has given them a byproduct, but they're a byproduct because everything begins with the creation of the weapons of mass destruction. Then we get the byproducts of that, some technology that's there created for some weapons, then spins off into society for the good of society, but simultaneously it's going hand in hand. And there is a proliferation of nuclear weapons, biological weapons, and the creation of these is also destroying the environment. So Srila Prabhupada made a prediction that, again, this human society is going to live like rats underground. We're going to go back underground, live like rats, or at least live like cavemen. They say that society comes from cavemen, so once again it's going to go back into that, again become a rat. So this is the direction of this misguided civilization, because there is so much out there in the way of proliferation of weapons that someone's dying to use these. So this is the dire strait of society today, that they're still progressing, they're concerned, but they don't understand the essence of what the problem is at. And it is difficult because this is an age of political correctness amongst social medias and people and society. People they only want to hear palatable things. That's why when you see the news, you turn on the news, you hear all this dismal stuff going on about people suffering. Suffering seems to attract people's attention, other people suffering. Then it always finishes with some corny little thing that makes people laugh at the end. Something palatable that sort of glosses over all the bad things that are happening, something totally irrelevant. So this is the conditioned society, that people want to hear these things. They don't want to hear about death or their own imminent destruction or what happens after death. The topic of God, it's now very, very much taboo. You talk about religion and immediately you get this reaction. It's quite funny. You say, well, I'm a religious person, and what's going to be the reaction? Reaction is that religion, it's caused so much trouble in the past. God been so mean, he's done so much, and the whole problems of society has been due to religion. It's sort of like a brainwashed thing that everybody thinks that the problem of society is religion. But if you actually boil it down, there's no religion now, but look at all the problems in society and the world that there is today. I said, well, if you think God caused the problems in religion, we're all right now. I'll drop you off in the middle of Afghanistan, North Korea, put you in the middle of somewhere in Africa, China, Iran, Iraq, Yemen. The list goes on forever, and you see what your society, see what your society is doing. So actually, people have been brainwashed in one sense to react in this manner towards religion. So, and it's also a fact that they don't want to see the reality that the body is dwindling and it's going to die, gets sick and it dies, or sometimes it's deformed. So it's an age of beauty, it's an age of youth. They worship youth and beauty. So if you go to the shopping malls, you go to the centres, you don't see so many deformed people in the West. They're hidden away somewhere. Sometimes when you do see a group of people who are intellectually handicapped, it's almost like a shock. So it's a little bit of, it's like political correctness and social convention. So therefore the devotees in ISKCON, although the people only want to hear the palatable truth, but the devotees are speaking the truth, because a godless civilization ultimately cannot be happy. It only can come about in grief. And so people need to hear what is the actual truth. And Srila Prabhupada at this point in time explains that love is there in everyone. Love is inherent within us all. Just in relationship between young man and young woman, a mother and a child, brother and sister, love for society, love for your country. That love is always there, but it is being frustrated by the symptoms of Kali Yuga, quarrel, hypocrisy, and all the other bad things that are associated with Kali Yuga. And what has been the cause of all that? It's actually that we've forgotten Krishna, we've forgotten the Lord within our heart. And that's because religion has been cast aside. So we've forgotten how to love God. Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhaktir hoksajay. How to attain that loving devotional service to personality of Godhead. Savai pum samparo dharmo. So Srila Prabhupada discusses the word dharma. Dharma is like a natural proclivity, just like you have different tastes within different foodstuffs. Just like, for instance, the taste of sugar is sweet. Taste of lemon, sour. Taste of salt, salty. And what's an example of bitter? Bitter melon. Unripe bitter melon. I'd like to say amla fruit. If you have amla fruit, then you know what bitter means. So that, and then what's chili? Hot. Taste of hot heat within the mouth. So these are the particular characteristics. So if you eat sugar and it's not sweet, there's something, it's not sugar, it's not the characteristic there. So sometimes, like we have sugar and we have salt, right? And I'll whack all this salt in the kitchen, and they grab the sugar by mistake, you know, and then so there's no salt in the kitchen. Why is it sweet? It looks the same, so the wrong characteristic. So the human characteristic actually is to serve. The spirit of service, so it's like we're saying, it's there within everybody. If we're not serving God, then we're serving our partner, our lover, our family, our friends, society, country, etc. We just love that. We love that concept of service, just like with the Olympic Games, when all the Olympians perform so well for their country, they come back as heroes and people line up the streets and they give them a big royal parade, wave flags, and they adore them and give them their love, and they get treated very nicely. It's just a natural inclination from people towards others. But if you apply it to a place where you're not happy, then it's a misplaced service. This service is actually meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the satisfying thing. Yenatma suprasidati. The Lord becomes satisfied by the service and reciprocates. We become satisfied. So this service actually is meant for religious principles. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. That universal form of religion, whatever the religion is, whether you're a Christian, you're Islamic, or you're Hindu, still the basic essence of human beings is loving service. And that mood flows on towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's one example of society like the communists. I was just reading Shamasundra's book, Chasing Rhinos, and he's just gone to Moscow, with Srila Prabhupada, to spend 5 days in Moscow. So at that point in time, he was just describing Moscow, that all the churches that were closed, called them museums of science, and the people weren't allowed to worship. That actually communism, service to the people, service to the state, that was the ultimate goal of life. And they used to watch these military parades, which apparently happened every week, that these big rockets go past and all the soldiers be frog marching, thousands of soldiers. And Srila Prabhupada made that prediction that this is not going to last, this is unnatural. And he predicted that this is only going to last another 20 years or so, and that's going to be all destroyed, it's all going to be gone. And it's exactly what happened. Actually, in the 90s, the whole thing fell apart. Russia fell apart. Communism, it ceased because it wasn't doable. It wasn't God's system. It was something that was created. It was an idea that was manifested by someone, but it failed. And as soon as that system failed, then people's religiosity came out. It was suppressed, but wasn't destroyed. The inherent love of Godhead sometimes does get suppressed within people, but when it has got a chance to flow, it comes out in a big way. So Srila Prabhupada, when he was there for 5 days, he made one devotee and initiated him within 5 days, Anatoly, and he preached to him, left him with the philosophy and left him with the responsibility to spreading Krishna consciousness, which he did. And now there is something like, how many devotees? Vishnu Jan's here. How many devotees in Russia?
It's hard to say. In Moscow it's approximately 10,000.
10,000 in Moscow, yeah. And maybe 20,000 in the whole of Russia. So that is a prolific number, and if you go to Mayapur, you go Vrindavan, you see so many Russian devotees. Actually, Russian devotees are everywhere. They've spread, and this Krishna consciousness has just boomed since that gate that was suppressing them, floodgates opened up. Similarly, all the Orthodox religions have also got popular support, so it just goes to show that the nature of people is there. In Western society here, because we have very little worship of the Lord, the love and adoration that's going to other people like film stars, sportsmen, musicians, anything that actually stimulates the senses. Then if they do that, then they're worshipable. But ultimately, there's no happiness there. You get sick of it. You hear some music there and you hear it again, you get sick of it. You get sick of the musician. And the musicians, all of a sudden, they find that they're catapulted into this stardom where they're demigods and mega personalities. They're walking around with their head in the air, and then next year, all of a sudden nobody even wants to know them, just forgotten, just like that. Very frustrating. So even for those people who do receive that worship, it's meant for the Supreme Person of Godhead, not for them. Nobody gets to be worshipped like God. And ultimately they become delusional and they can't deal with it, and they succumb to total misery and unhappiness also. So so the spiritual master, he awakens opens our eyes, awakens us to love of Godhead, the path to perfection, process of loving service to God, and that actually is the only thing that can give you the full satisfaction. So we are so fortunate that our spiritual master, he's mercifully given us this process of bhakti yoga. So other processes are there, and I think that most of us have actually experimented with all these other processes that were so-called spiritual paths to spiritual realization. We tried so many, and then we come to Krishna consciousness, and by that understanding and just simply by introduction of the chanting and focus on the Maha Mantra, we've understood that the real happiness that is within, we've all realized that certain happiness, and we do keep getting doses of spiritual happiness which propels us and keeps us on this path. And the thing about this, it's non-secular, it's for everybody around the world. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati very much emphasised Srila Prabhupada take this around the world, give it to everybody. And so Srila Prabhupada was saying in America that here I am talking to you Jewish boys and girls, Christian boys and girls. There are no Hindus, no Hindus there from India, that it only belongs to India. It's for everybody around the world. And this mantra is therefore, it's just a natural way of self-realization which to unite the world. Man means mind, and tra, man. Man means mind. Tra means deliverance, that which delivers you from mental concoction. This is Prabhupada's definition. That which delivers you from mental concoction and delivers you from your speculative mind. It inoculates you from the ravages of Kali Yuga. It's a natural process which, performed properly, activates the ultimate love of Godhead. That's the goal of life, love of Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Just a comment that you made about how some of the intellectually, when you get a shock when you see an intellectually handicapped child, in the West.
Can you all hear that? You all hear that? Yeah. Okay.
Just when you're talking about how you don't see some of those children, and I just had this remembrance of how I saw when I was having my child in hospital, that actually in the realization that in the West, this type of karma is not allowed to be lived out. Like, and you can go to the Calcutta wholesale markets, you can see a lot of the in India they're allowed to live and they live there. And you can see how when the country has that philosophy, then people just allow them to live it out. But in the West, the whole development, political thing, is that the children are not allowed to live.
It's a very selfish society. It's come to this way that it used to be that the family was a homogeneous unit, but these days the sons and daughters are very quick to usher anybody who gets old and incapacitated into an old people's home where they get looked after and put out of sight, and they can visit them once a month or once a year or something like that. So it's a pretty dysfunctional society. It just goes on like that, and it's not really working in that way. Because when you get old, you don't want to be left in an old people's home by yourself. Bad way to go. No love. Any other questions or comments? No, all glory to Prabhupada.